Ni hao. This means hello. How are you? Welcome to an ancient land of wonderful charm and culture. Come, take that first step and begin a journey back into 5,000 years of mystery. Splendid China, the unforgettable journey.
Opening in 1993 and located in Kissimmee, Florida, right next door to Walt Disney World stood Splendid China, a 76-acre miniature theme park owned by the government of the People's Republic of China. The park offered miniatures, dances, acrobatics, and other demonstrations of Chinese culture. The idea for the park began with Frank and Josephine Chen, a teacher from Taiwan who had migrated to the US in 1968. The couple had built their fortune through real estate development. During a 1986 trip to Central Florida, they purchased an empty strip of land comprising of 560 acres located just off US Highway 192, west of Walt Disney World.
Highway 192, 3 miles west of I-4.
In 1988, they toured a prototype park, Splendid China, in Shenzhen, China, just across the border from Hong Kong. The park was operated by China Travel Service, or CTS, and the original park had 3.5 million people visiting during the first year. This original park opened in 1989 and was an immediate success. The Chens negotiated an agreement with CTS that the Chen's company, Florida-based American Eastern International, would supply the land and management for a new park in Florida, while CTS would construct the buildings and supply non-management staff in a 50-50 partnership. The land purchased in Florida would be used for 500 family homes, 240 condos, 1,400 hotel rooms, restaurants, shopping space, and its centerpiece, Splendid China Florida.
What did you do today? Well, if you went to Splendid China, your whole family could have enjoyed the all-new magical Snow Tiger Adventure Show and got up close and personal with exotic animals.
George Chen, the son of Frank and Josephine, was recruited to run the project of the 76-acre park that aimed to attract tourists from Asia, as well as tour groups and Disney visitors in search of something different. The park was estimated to be a huge success based on the fact that similar miniature attractions in Europe drew in around 1 million visitors annually. Marketing studies convinced the partners that the attraction would be a huge success in Orlando. The park itself would feature over 60 miniature replicas of famous Chinese locations, intended as both a tourist attraction and an advertisement for travel to China. The aim was to have the guests visiting discover the history, culture, and customs of China.
What you see on your visit to Splendid China is nothing less than all the landmark sites in the history and culture of the second largest nation on Earth.
Chen stated that if he wanted to do an attraction on the doorsteps of Walt Disney World, it would have to complement them, not compete with them. Critics of the park denounced the CTS as a government-funded travel agency, while the general manager of the company insisted that his company was a private entity and that only government support came from the permission to create some of the replicas. A number of state officials attended the groundbreaking ceremony on December 18, 1991. Constructing the park proved a unique experience that exposed American workers to Asian work ethics and vice versa. Around 120 artists, men only, were recruited to the United States to work on the exhibits. Each workday was the same. The Chinese workers worked until midday and then they took a nap until 2:30 and returned to work until 7 p.m. While this seemed odd to the American workers, it proved effective, as the Great Wall exhibit was projected to take 12 months to complete, but only took around 7. The workers lived on site in a customized trailer park with shared dorm-style rooms during construction. 2 chefs were even hired from China to help prevent homesickness. George Chen lived among them, and each worker was bought an annual pass to Walt Disney World and were provided with frequent chances to take trips to the parks. Every Chinese province will be featured in the pristinely designed theme park. The main exhibit, including the Great Wall, built from 6.5 million 1x2 inch bricks, 1/16 the original size. Some of the other exhibits included terracotta soldiers, a 4-story replica of the Leshan Buddha, which in real life stands at 233 feet, and many more. Much of the park was built on a scale of 1 to 15. Everything was handcrafted and carefully detailed. Authenticity was the key to the project, and the construction budget continued to rise. Originally, the budget was projected at $12 million, and the final cost ended up at over $100 million. Some of the budget increases included a 150-seat theatre to introduce visitors to Chinese history.
Welcome to Florida Splendid China. Here in the middle of a vacation destination, known mostly for make-believe, comes a truly unique attraction.
A 1,000-seat amphitheatre offering live shows including Mongolian wrestling, kung fu shows and dances. Shortly before opening, 2 additional purchases, an extra 26 acres of land was purchased, and the nearby hotel Days Inn was also purchased to offer an all-inclusive package for tour groups. During construction, a number of problems arose between the partners. The CTS and the Chens differed in the vision for the park, and rumours began to circulate that CTS were going to buy out the Chen family. Also, while the project had been approved for construction, the FBI remained concerned that some of the workers might have been spies sent by China to spy on the Cape Canaveral military base and Kennedy Space Center, and frequent unannounced inspections were conducted on the large containers arriving from China. Despite these issues though, the project moved forward.
The Florida climate, much like the climate along the South China Seas, makes a tour of Splendid China a pleasure at any time of year.
The park was planning to hire around 300 to 400 employees. Half would be Chinese entertainers, tour guides, chefs, and artisans. In the end, the park brought nearly 550 jobs to the local economy. 400 were local Floridians, and around 150 were Chinese specialists. Nearly half of the budget was spent on labour for the construction of the project, which began in December 1991. The park was aiming for around 1 million visitors in its opening year, and an aggressive marketing campaign began. This estimate, though, was revised down to around 500,000 by opening day. The park was marketed as a half-day attraction, and aimed to sell tickets at 1/3 to 1/2 of a ticket price to Disney. An adult ticket on opening day was set at $23.55. In addition, extra charges were $5 for a guided walking tour or $9 for a tour on a golf cart. The price seemed high for a park marketed as a half-day passive attraction, but the partners remained convinced it would draw in a crowd of educated travelers to appreciate its beauty. On opening, the Orlando Sentinel dubbed the park as the region's newest 100 million gamble on a theme park.
If you could take all of the beauty of China, add the excitement of China, with acrobats, dancers, authentic Chinese dining, and a whole new world of shopping, recreate all of this amazing country and place it right here in Central Florida, then you could visit China today. Splendid China.
The park opened on December 18, 1993. Hundreds of officials, dignitaries, and special guests attended the opening ceremony. The park's mission statement was "Let the world learn about China." On its first official opening day, 3,000 guests visited the new attraction. Media outlets praised the new park. It had no rides, but it was an immersion into Chinese culture and history. Small complaints on opening day about the loss of the sound system, cold food, and there wasn't much to do for children were lost in the amazement of visiting guests. January 1994, however, saw the Chen Company abruptly sell their half of the park for $26 million to CTS. The announcement stated creative differences over how they ran the attraction as the cause of the split. Chen later stated that it was frustrating to deal with the Chinese partners who constantly blocked his proposals to market and promote the park, including adding a shop into the Orlando airport. After the split, the park continued and offered multiple discounts to try and attract guests. CTS claimed business had been good, however by the end of the year they admitted it had not met its 1994 goals. The problem began at the top. Several of the board of directors and administrative employees were American, but the president and general manager were Chinese. The president of the park had no background in tourism and spoke very little English. The management failed to understand what would bring Americans into the park and refused to change from the successful blueprint of the park based in China. They did, though, recognize the need for more entertainment, and CTS approved an additional $3 million to be spent on a new theatre to showcase acrobats, jugglers, and martial artists. In 1996, the park opened the Golden Peacock Theatre. Even after this, though, the attendance did not increase, and CTS hired a new president. Harvard educated with a background in tourism, as well as Bob Morgan, a marketing veteran with a background in theme parks. The park took a more mainstream approach to its marketing. It couldn't help, though, with the mismatch of the park experience compared to what people came to Central Florida to experience.
And who would dream of visiting China without enjoying authentic Chinese cuisine? 4 different restaurants, including the splendid Suzhou Pearl, bring you the exciting tastes, scents, and textures of China.
The authentic Chinese food was also a failure for the visitors to the park who didn't want to diverse from their normal tastes. While park attendance continued to lag, it didn't stop the park buying further land and proposing multiple large expansions, such as adding a luxury hotel and an Asian trade center. They planned a 20-year expansion plan.
Grandpa Panda entertains the panda grandkids, with a little help from a friendly giraffe. This show is sure to delight our younger visitors of all ages.
Well, I don't think much is wrong with Disney World, no.
Disney chairman himself, Michael Eisner, and other top Disney executives even toured the park in August 1996.
It is going to be the biggest and most ambitious theme park that we have ever built.
And rumors began spreading that they needed the assistance of CTS to acquire a panda for the upcoming Animal Kingdom park. Another rumor suggested Eisner wanted to collaborate with the CTS for the development of a theme park in China. The same year, Splendid China had another management change. The new management fired over half of the marketing team, as well as the director of administration, who disagreed with the new management. The park hours were extended until 11 p.m. and the front courtyard was renamed Chinatown, and it was designated as an area guests could shop, dine, and watch performances without paying any entry fee. This plan, though, was reversed only 5 months later. To try and attract more people to the park added animal shows and ice carvings and teamed up with Cypress Gardens, Fantasy of Flight, and Bok Tower to offer a new multi-pass. Again, attendance did not improve, and Splendid China continued to lose money. By 1999, only a few hundred guests visited per day, and the park was reported to be losing $9 million a year. In May 2000, Massachusetts-based Brook Hill LLC planned to buy Splendid China for $56 million, but the deal fell through when word got out it would be demolished for housing and protests began against the idea. Again, Splendid China's top executives were summoned back to China and mysteriously this time disappeared, rumored to be under house arrest for some shady business involving the park's finances. CTS again renewed its commitment to the park, and the park's vice president of entertainment was appointed as CEO and president. The new aim for the park would be to focus on shows and run on a reduced staff. With its renewed focus, attendance actually began to rise, from less than 100 guests per day to around 300. Still short of the break-even point, though, of 500 guests per day. Management again would change, the frequent changes and the low morale of staff could be seen in the maintenance of the park. Paint began to peel off and dozens of miniatures were broken or had fallen over. Grass even grew through the sidewalk, and many of the park's kiosks had already been abandoned.
Florida's newest theme park's a huge ornate attraction designed to give visitors a look at Asian history. But critics say Splendid China distorts the truth.
Throughout its lifetime, the park also featured multiple controversies and protests from the day it opened. Too many to even cover here. Many theme parks come with controversies. No one at the park's management anticipated the backlash to some of the park's exhibits, and even from opening day, the park had protesters outside the gates. While protesters claim responsibility, tourism analysts denounced these claims and said the fall in attendance was just the typical visitors were not interested in the park. Only the biggest parks could survive the tourism decline. After September the 11th, Splendid China was not one of them. The park closed on December 31st, 2003, and at the time only 40 employees remained, half of which were performers who would return to China after the closure. The original construction cost of $1 million was now valued at only $12.8 million. Its final day attracted around 750 guests. CTS was unable to find a buyer for the park and after a year put it up for auction. By that time, the park was in a severely abandoned state. After the park's closure, it suffered heavily from attacks from thieves and vandals, and hundreds of items were taken, ranging from miniatures to the head of statues before the auction. The auctioneers catalogued 40,000 items that took over 2 years to create. All of the items, including the Great Wall, were sold within 3 days and given 60 days to be removed by their purchaser. CTS also sold the 366 acres of land and the Days Inn Hotel for $40 million. After 10 years, the beautiful, handcrafted, controversial park began to fade away, a complete failure. After most of the park was left abandoned, the remaining structures began to be demolished in early 2013. By March 2016, the park no longer exists. The location is currently the home of the upcoming Margaritaville Resort, which is currently under construction. A strip mall still exists today nearby with its China theme still intact. The original Splendid China Park, located in China, still operates to this day. The failure of the park comes down to several factors, CTS management being the primary issue. A park which was created with the goal to promote cultural understanding failed to understand the tourist culture of Central Florida.
On the unforgettable journey through Splendid China.
Thank you so much for watching this video of Expedition Extinct. Please be sure to let us know what you would like to see covered in the comments below. Please also do check out our Patreon if you would like to support the channel. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter for the latest updates on upcoming expeditions. We will see you next time.